Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. Picture this. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it. A brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wilton, joined by Sergeant Wilton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm really good.
You know, it's crazy that this weekend you and I will be celebrating 18 years of marriage. And I'm thinking back to long ago when you worked in corrections, and I remember a family friend and us going to your police department and you just like checking things out, and this vision that's naturally created in our minds when we start the process of something like that. And for you and I think it was quite a bit more unique because we had so much that really shaped everything for us. That was not to say that you being a police officer shapes everything for us, but at that time there was I was working on my MBA and you were transitioning from working in corrections to going into law enforcement. And there was so much taking place at that time because we also got married at that same time. And then you started the academy at that same time. And then there was so much that was foundationally laid to where we started to develop and envision what life was going to look like for us because of your career and because of my career. And it's very interesting how there's this thing called career disillusionment, especially in first responders. And I think that for a lot of people, they grieve the job that they thought that they would have because things have been created in their mind based off of all sorts of things, right? Social influence, what other people have to say, what we're seeing posted online. And then you get into the job and it's not always what you think it's going to be.
You know, it's funny, like as you're explaining that, I'm thinking of like growing up and you start seeing these trailers for movies and you're like, oh, well, that looks really good. And then you start seeing new trailers and it starts leading up to this excitement of, oh, this is going to be such a good movie. And your brain starts forming this, oh, this is going to be like the best movie ever. And then you go and watch that movie and you're like, well, it was good, but it wasn't that good.
You know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think that for a lot of people who work as a first responder, the life that they dreamed about doesn't fully match the one that they're living. And it's not about regret or wanting to quit your job, but more about mourning the expectations. And I think for you and I, because of the way that we treat our marriage like a business, and we constantly have business meetings for our marriage and check-ins and recalibrations, this is so much better than what I could have even thought that it would have been.
Absolutely. And because one, if we would have went back 18 years ago and discussed like where we would be and what we'd be doing and everything, like I guarantee that whole platform, everything that we would have even brainstormed, because it wouldn't even been what we have achieved to this point. And not saying that we couldn't have achieved anything and everything that we would ever want, but sometimes the mystery involved with being able to, one, be excited about that for your future, but being able to really sit back and analyze is like, wow, we've actually achieved even more than we could have ever expected.
Yeah, but the flip side to that is that there are a lot of people that I would say probably, around year 5 or so, you might get to this place in your career where you're starting to realize that things don't look the way that you thought that they ought to. And I think a lot of that actually has to come down with leadership at your particular department. We talk about that a lot. And there's something called disenfranchised grief. And it happens when first of all, it's not something that's basically validated by other people. But for first responders, when you're grieving a career while you're still working in it, it can feel very confusing and lonely and disloyal. And I think this leads to a lot of suppression of emotion instead of being able to process it. And when you don't have somebody to be able to word vomit all of that out to, and mind you, this can be in any profession, I think it can become so lonely to not have the ability to vent your thoughts and to kind of assess, is this something that I want to stick with? Or is this so far from the beaten path in what I thought it was going to be that I should just find something else?
So, in something like I've always done when I've had trainees, when I've had new officers come in, and, we have these ideas of the sensationalization of what I'm going to be as a cop, what we get to do, what we don't get to do, and more so of I'm going to do all these amazing things. And because we've sensationalized it in our own minds of how grand and exciting it is, and then when you start getting involved in it over years and years and years, you see, 80% of what I do is paperwork.
The whole sensationalized wild, wild west that you were talking about, it wasn't far off when you first started your career. And a big aspect to this is that a lot has changed in law enforcement in particular over the last 2 decades. It's
so funny that... So yesterday I was actually talking with my guys and telling them a story before we had left for the day. And I have this one picture. It's just a simple picture of me climbing out of a wash on a ladder. And that picture in itself triggers a memory from way back in the day. And they go, "You look so young there." I'm like, yeah, I had 2 years on at this point. And it's funny because then we start going down the whole rabbit hole of, well, cell phone pictures weren't very good then. That was literally when I had a flip cell phone still. And I start sharing the whole story and the whole background to that whole day, what transpired and what led up to it. And like, you can see them, like, it excites them. It's like that was, for us, it was still kind of the wild, wild west back then.
It's like the stories that you used to hear your FTOs talking about. That's funny.
Yeah.
And, for disenfranchised grief, I think it can often look like disappointment that you can't fully explain. Maybe nostalgia for early career optimism, feeling conflicted about your pride and frustration, and even emotional withdrawal from the job culture itself.
And I think because especially for new officers who are coming in, they're hearing all these old war stories. They're hearing, we used to get to do this, and you're explaining to them, and that's the imagery they start creating in their minds of, I wish I could do that. I wish we could do this now. And those dynamics shift. And it's not that you can't be proactive in being able to approach things in a certain way. It's number one, it's being able to figure different avenues and aspects of being able to, let your dream come true with how you can approach those situations. But it's also being able to take all the new information in and to be able to protect yourself liability and criminally wise, to be able to ultimately support yourself long term.
And here's the thing. I think that for a lot of people, you probably miss the version of yourself who first signed up, and maybe you feel disappointed and yet you're still committed. And so I think it's important to be able to just shed light on this topic. I don't ever hear anybody talking about it, and process that career grief without leaving the job if it's something that you still want to stick with.
And the best way I look at it, and for every chapter in my life within my department, it's like I'm a caterpillar, and I start out as that cat. I start as a larvae, and then I shed that skin and turn into a caterpillar. And like, you're shedding that skin, instead of looking at it from the grief mindset of it, it's like I'm expanding further and further in becoming a beautiful butterfly.
I'm really glad that you said that, because you can name grief without labeling it as failure. And I think that a lot of people don't recognize that grief often accompanies growth. I think about my ex-fiance breaking up with me, or my mom dying. Like, those levels of grief are pretty traumatic, and those were some of the biggest growth factors in my entire life.
Yeah, and I think with anything, when we reformat our way of analyzing and think of it, yes, this is something that happened to us. This is something that has taught us a lesson, how we grow from it. And there's always grief associated, and it's going to hurt. It's never going to feel good, but it's all in our perception and how we perceive it to make sure we're moving forward and not stepping back.
And here's the thing, when you understand that you can separate the mission from the culture, then purpose can remain even if the system is a little disappointing.
And when we do that, we're being able to really start approaching everything in our stories, because they're our stories. It's not anyone else's story, it's ours. And we're able to adapt the narrative to really fit to what we want and to be able to do the job and be the person we signed up to be.
And you know, something I want to applaud you on, Clint, that I think you have done so well is that you've allowed yourself to be able to outgrow your expectations. And the change has never invalidated your commitment. And you found ways to be able to just expand on any of the things that you could have imagined some 18 years ago.
Well, thank you. And it's because I think, and you've been the motivating factor in my life to be able to keep pushing me, to keep driving me on, and to be my biggest cheerleader and champion, not only on the front side, but on the back side too, to where we can grow together and we can keep progressing on.
Well, thank you, baby. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.